Well, good morning. Good morning. Happy Saturday, everyone, and happy 2024. It's been a while since I've seen you all. My name is Dr. Shy, and I'm the founder and president of Building Bridges and your host for the Exposed Live series. Oh my gosh, can you believe it? We are back for episode 9. We did 8 episodes last year in 2023 when we kicked this thing off. If you missed some of our episodes in 2023, you can go back to our YouTube channel and check some of those episodes out. We're so excited to be here for episode 9. I'm happy that we are continuing this series. And one new thing that we're doing is we're opening this up to men. Yes, men can now be a part of our platform. And we're just so excited just to continue this thing going. And if you're new to this Exposed Live Series channel and you're trying to figure out, okay, what's Building Bridges, what's Exposed Live Series? Well, Building Bridges, we're a nonprofit organization that is designed to expose, equip, and empower young girls to pursue STEM through self-awareness strategies. And our Exposed Live series is we take the first core value, expose. That is one of our main core values, and we're using that platform to do two things. We want to provide exposure opportunities for young girls and also young boys to learn various STEM careers from STEM professionals that they may not be aware of. And two, we're providing exposure for men and women of color to showcase their individual STEM career journey so that we can learn from them and they can also share their STEM career accomplishments because overall we believe hashtag exposure is good. All right, today our very special guest kicking off 2024 Exposed Live series, we have Juliet Marie Crowell. She works at the University of Chicago in the Department of Astronomy and Astrophysics, and she is part of the Education and Public Outreach Director for this particular department. So basically, Juliet, she partners with scientists to increase the diversity and participation in Big Bang research, astronomy, and astrophysics. And in her position, she focuses on increasing equity and access to STEM learning for all. And she strives to develop inclusive programming by building partnerships with HBCUs, and minority serving institutions across the United States. So thank you for being here, Juliet.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to kick off your 2024 series, Dr. Shy. I'm excited and honored to be here.
Awesome. So let's get into the conversation. We typically like to ask all of our special guests, how did they grow up and were they exposed to STEM when they were young? So I want to ask you the same thing. Tell us more about your background growing up and if you were exposed to STEM as a young girl.
Yes, so I was born in Belize, Central America, and I'm fifth generation Belizean. So all my family, my parents, grandparents, great grandparents, of course, my ancestors were enslaved, and so I can trace my ancestry as far back as 5 generations when we came to Belize, Central America. And my STEM exposure is really bound to my cultural experiences. So just being in Belize and seeing the sea turtles, the manatees, going to the beach and really looking at that natural environment was awesome. And so my parents really took advantage of exposing us to the world in those ways. And that's how I started identifying with the natural world and natural sciences. When I was 6, I moved to Chicago, and we have a large population of Belizeans in Chicago, and most of our first generation born in my family are Chicagoans. And so when I moved to Chicago, then I got to learn about sort of all the beautiful architecture. And my family, my parents really took advantage of the park services in Chicago and all the STEM programs that they offered for youth in the summer. And so that, again, was a natural way that we could take advantage of sort of the resources that gave us access to the environment here in Chicago. And then when I was 12, we moved from the south side of Chicago, where we had a really nice single family home, to cows, sheep, and tulips to Northern Holland. And so
Okay.
again, that was really awesome to just be in that other environment. And we got to tour places in Europe where my uncles were stationed in Germany. So we saw city walls, we went into caves, we saw museums, but we spent a lot of time just outdoors in the natural environment.
Awesome. Wow. So you basically were always outside in nature as a young
Absolutely.
girl. Being in Belize and then moving to Chicago and then being basically out on like a farm.
In a
So did you know at that time when you were a young girl that you were being exposed to like science in nature?
I don't think I necessarily saw it that way, but I just thought, wow, the world is so beautiful. And when we joined, they have something similar to Girl Scouts in the Netherlands. That's when I knew, like, with the group of young girls, we did projects, we bike ride, we went and spent a night in an old cow shed and went camping. And
Okay.
I didn't realize how much my life was being enriched. I thought this was normal. My parents would take us to a candle making factory, we made candles. We went to flour mills to see how windmills churn grain into flour. And I don't think I labeled it as such, but I just knew that it really enriched my life.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. You were getting that exposure very early on as a young girl. And did that shape, how you liked, STEM related classes throughout middle school and high school?
Absolutely. In high school, we had I enjoyed the horticulture course a lot. So we went out and looked at natural flora and fauna and plants in the environment. And for our final exam, the professor brought in all these samples of these different plants. And you actually had to identify them, but we could look at texture, we could look at characteristics, we could feel, we could touch. And so it was really nice to say, how can I learn about the environment? How can we be better stewards to the environment, was my main interest. And that's when I knew, like, in high school, I took, biology, chemistry, physics. That's when I knew, like, I'm really excited about learning more about the different types of STEM disciplines.
Awesome. Awesome. And then I guess what made you wanted to choose the major that you chose in college?
It was very interesting. We had sort of like a career day. We definitely all had an assessment based on your characteristics. You filled out a sort of a form, and it really let you know, what careers might be fitting for you based on your interests. And I remember at the end of my assessment, it said you will build a career for yourself in something STEM related. And I actually brought a flyer home about a program where you could train in the Netherlands to be a lab technician. It was a 2-year program with a 7-month internship. And bringing that flyer home and showing that to my mom, she was like, that's something that I think you should pursue. And so then I started pursuing a STEM career.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk more about that, right? And your STEM career path and how you're now able to combine your science background with public and education outreach. Was this something that you always saw yourself doing?
Interestingly enough, I enjoyed being a lab tech, and I worked for a big steel company in Northern Holland for my first job. And I had really great colleagues, and we would come together around sort of our tea and coffee breaks. But it can be very isolating when you're doing the research and you're working by yourself. And when I moved back to the US in my mid-20s, I discovered a science lab at the Smithsonian, and they were doing science with the public. So we could test for chlorine in water, we did titrations, we extracted DNA from cow cells. And I was like, this is awesome. I could still be a scientist, but now I get to talk to people, meet people from all around the world. And
Mhm.
really, that social part of my personality got to be more expressed in that way. And so I transitioned from doing science and doing science research into engaging the public with science. And that's how I ended up in this public education, public engagement space.
That is pretty cool. That's awesome. Because sometimes as a scientist, and I know this myself, you may not get the opportunity to get outside the lab so much. You're always in the lab, you're always wearing gloves, you're always pipetting something. but not having the opportunity to actually get out and share with the public, or even, with students at local high schools or middle schools, what it is that you actually do. So that is so great that you have the chance to get outside the lab and doing that currently right now. Um, I guess one thing I want to know is what motivates you to partner with scientists in order to increase the diversity in astronomy and astrophysics, which is what you do at the University of Chicago.
Once I discovered that I could engage the public in science, and had a long, successful career at the Smithsonian, I worked a lot with curators, scientists, specialists in echinoderms, specialists that worked with microorganisms or DNA. I realized that I couldn't be a specialist in all these different science disciplines that I was excited about, but I could definitely partner with these experts that have been doing this work for 20, 30, 40 years, and they
Mhm.
needed my help and my support to get this science out to the public. So thinking about accessibility and how to produce public programs that are supportive of teachers in the classroom, so managing teacher professional development. So that's when I learned I could partner with scientists, put programs together across different STEM disciplines, whether it was at a museum or going to Goddard Space Center or going to the National Institute of Science and Technology. And so it was really nice to say, I can work with experts and they value what I bring to the table. And
Mhm.
I get to learn about these fun sciences across these disciplines. And so now I'm working with astronomers and astrophysicists. And this is the first job where everyone says to me, we're so happy you're here, because they
Hmm.
really count on me being the person to support and to connect them to the spaces where outreach is, engagement with the community and the Black and brown boys and girls in our U Chicago community. It's my
Mhm.
job to make sure I work with them to get to get the science out there to the public.
Right, right. And that's wonderful because it's so needed. We need people like you that understands the science and understand how to communicate the science and being able to showcase this to all, like you said, Black and brown boys and girls in the communities across Chicago. So I'm happy that you're doing what you're doing as well to be able to provide exposure opportunities. And do you have like any accomplishments that you would like to share that you've done so far?
Well, I will say career-wise, I think when we talk about STEM, it's coming, and you know this, Dr. Shai, from a very academic place. So when we talk about STEM identity, everybody doesn't identify across all the science, technology, engineering, math,
Hmm.
but you find your identity in maybe one of those spaces or a cross section of those spaces. And so I feel that I knew that I could be exposed to all the science if I chose the right career.
Hmm.
So my biggest joy that I got out of this career was sailing on a research vessel called the Joyous Resolution. So I
Okay.
spent 60 days in the Indian Ocean with scientists studying the onset of the Indian monsoon. And they drill for deep ocean cores where they look at soil sediments, microfossils, so that they can tell something about environments from millions of years ago. And I got to broadcast live from that ship with schools all around the US and the world. And the person that sent me out there thought I did such a great job. She invited me back, and I spent 60 days in the inner sea of the Maldives. And so when I look back at my 12-year-old self, I never thought that this job or this career would allow me to travel to the Maldives, to the Indian Ocean, to Sri Lanka, to Australia. And because I love traveling and seeing the world, it was just a perfect fit for me doing science, working with scientists, engaging the public, and getting to travel. So I'm really excited that I've been able to make a good career out of this.
That is so cool. And as I'm hearing you talking, I'm like, wow, you were like kind of doing that when you were a small little girl, right? You were doing that.
Absolutely.
And then now as an adult in a career, being able to do that now. So it kind of just came back full circle for you. That is so awesome. Juliet, I would like to know, was there anyone that inspired you along your STEM career journey?
I will say, I don't remember like a specific teacher. Definitely my mom, and I find that in the current research, a lot of Black and brown girls are really inspired by their mom or their grandma. Those are really the people that mentor and engage them. And my mom really knew early on the value of education and the value of education in a social economic sense, that it provides you access and resources that you may not have otherwise.
Hmm.
Um, I don't remember the moment or the teacher, but I do remember that once someone saw in me more than I saw in myself, once someone saw me as capable and smart, that was the day that everything changed, because I thought, oh no, now I actually have to work really hard to accomplish this because I know that I'm capable of it. And so it doesn't go without hard work and perseverance, but it
Hmm.
just takes one person. Now that I'm an adult, I have mentors, but it just takes one person to say, I see you and I see your capabilities. So therefore now you cannot escape this task of being the best person that you can be in these spaces.
That is so cool. I want to follow up and ask you this question because you talk about being like inspired, right? So, is there anything you would like to share to, with a young girl or young boy to help them pursue STEM with confidence, especially considering that you've traveled so much, right? And then a lot of times with, young girls, young boys coming out of particular places where they may not have traveled as much. So how can you, what can you say to share to inspire a young girl or young boy to actually pursue STEM with confidence, or even just stepping outside of, the box, right? Especially with traveling and getting out there.
Yeah, yeah, I think absolutely to get exposed to as many things as possible. And when I was growing up, we didn't have the internet. So actually you could do a lot of virtual traveling. I had pen pals, but now you could actually FaceTime with a counterpart or peers in another country. I know a lot of schools have international partners with schools in other countries. So take advantage of anyone that you can learn from that's from a different culture, a different country, a different space. Try to expand across your peers. And I will say, it doesn't go without fear. I was very afraid to go sail in the Indian Ocean for 60 days and not see land. And so you can still have that fear, but you could still do it. And I would say, if they're international, my nephew went on a student exchange in high school to Germany. He studied German because we grew up in the Netherlands and we spoke Dutch. And he went to Germany and stayed with a family. And then his counterpart, his peer, came and stayed with my mom and my sister in Chicago. So I will say, even if you can't travel, reading books and surfing the internet to learn about other cultures. And I think that all those things that you do are going to make you stronger, richer, and you'll still be afraid for challenges. But when you get through it, you just feel like, I went through that and I didn't let fear win. And there's lots of free opportunities for students to sometimes travel internationally and really do that research and find out the places that you can go, whether it's just outside of Chicago, it's nationally, internationally. There's some great opportunities. And I meet young students now. My intern from last year, Isis, she wants to be the first to populate a new planet. And so just dream about the places that you can go to and try to get there.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And the last question I have for you is, and we always ask our special guest this, what does hashtag exposure is good mean to you?
So hashtag exposure is good. When we talk about spaces where we don't see a lot of Black and brown faces, especially in STEM, it's really because sometimes we are not, those doors are not opened, or we don't feel welcomed all the time. But I would say it's really about making sure that, and you do that, Dr. Shai, through your programs, that we provide access and exposure as young as possible, and that we make sure that we create welcoming spaces and environments that show all the different opportunities in STEM and also embrace the identities of the young people that we engage with so that they can see themselves in these spaces. And so they have an opportunity to experiment. And I had a supervisor that always talked about fail forward. So scientists often don't find what they're looking for. They often have results that aren't what they want. And so it's always trial and error. And so we have to know that that's a part of get your exposure, get your access, try things. You may not like one thing, you may like something else. And really, that's a part of growing in this world. And hopefully it also excites you about doing STEM and ballet or doing STEM and art. And there's lots of room for everyone in this space. And you just have to find your space, and exposure and access gives you that opportunity.
Yes, find your space. I love that. Well, we are, down for time. And thank you so much, Juliet, for sharing your story, sharing about your traveling experiences, and just being able to weave it all into STEM. Like I can tell by listening to your story, you were able to find your own path and what works for you and what fit you. And honestly, I just honestly going back to what you were talking about growing up and doing all that traveling when you were young, it all came full circle to what you're doing now, and you're able to give back and just continue to provide that exposure. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing to meet you and to meet our production team that's quietly in the background, Yasila. And I look forward to working and partnering with you and supporting your program here as a community leader. And that's the work that we do here too in the STEM ecosystem in Chicago. We find ways to partner. We find ways to partner our resources. We find ways to collaborate. We find ways to give young people exposure to STEM experiences. So I'm excited that I met you, and I look forward for us to continue building a relationship and partnering.
Awesome. That's what we do. We build bridges. All right. Well, thank you to everyone for watching and tuning in. We really appreciate it. Let us know you were watching. Go to our Instagram, Facebook. You can say, hashtag Exposed Live Series. Let us know you were watching. And also, if you are a man of color or a woman of color and you are a STEM professional and you're like, hey, I want to be a part of that series and share your experiences, you can definitely do that. Just go to our website and go to our reach page, and you can just fill out that short little form, and we'll get in touch with you and make sure we'll schedule some time for you to be a part of our Exposed Live series. We'll be featuring one speaker once a month. So you got for the rest of the year, March through November, we'll cut it off in November to be a part of the series. Also, if you're looking for volunteer opportunities, we do have those. Events that we have coming up will be at Laura Academy on next Wednesday. And if you like the Museum of Science and Industry, we'll be there for their annual Black Creativity Career Showcase on next Saturday. We're looking for volunteers to be a part of our station. We have a nice little station planned with Slinky. So be sure to sign up to volunteer with us, or if you just want to come to the museum that day, you can also do that as well. Donate, 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 donate. We cannot do what we do without your donation. So go donate, support our brand, wear our brand. And since this is Black History Month, happy Black History Month to all of you. And just know that you are Black history. I am living Black history. Juliet is living Black history. So that's it. That's all we have. I'm so excited that we got our first episode for 2024, which is in total our ninth episode in totality since we began this. And just be in tune for more surprises throughout the year. We may be in a different space the next time you see us, so stay tuned for that. All right. Well, thank you all for watching, and we will see you in March. Bye.